Let's go ahead and call this meeting to order. It is 6 p.m. I'd like to welcome everyone here tonight. Some introductions up here at the table with me. To my right, Superintendent Degner. We have Directors Williams, Etsy, Godwin, and to my left, Vice President Malone, Directors Clausen and Eastham, and Recording Secretary Kim Colvin. The public is reminded that if they wish to speak, they need to complete a speaker form found in the lobby and turn it in. All community comments shall take place at the beginning of the meeting during the community comment section of the agenda. Before we get to that, tonight we get to have our student representatives come up. It's been a long summer and we start our school year, so we have some students hopefully tonight. First up on my list is City High.
Hi, my name is Ayla Bashir, and this is...
I'm Rebecca McKaylee, and we are the co-class presidents of City High.
Yeah, we're really happy to see all you guys here. So I think one of the biggest things that we want to start with is our Student Senate. So we were able to hold some in-person meetings this year, which was different because last year it was all on Zoom, and we moved the time and location. They used to be held Wednesday mornings before school, and then just to accommodate towards like students who ride buses and have like responsibilities in the morning, we moved that to our advisory period on Fridays, and we hold in the auditorium. And I believe we went from 15 students who used to attend to almost 50 that attend consistently. So that was really successful. Our Senate has been planning homecoming, and we were going to do a parade, but because Scott Boulevard is closed, we were unable to get that approved to close First Avenue as well, just because people need to get around and everything. So instead, I believe we're going to do some sort of like tailgate before our Powder Puff games. We just had our club fair. I believe that was also very successful, especially with all the freshmen that are new to our school, and then a lot of the sophomores that didn't really get the opportunity to experience that last year. Same goes for our freshman orientation and those beginning events. We had ambassadors working that. And then I think the biggest thing on our list is the new addition that just opened up. It has really, really helped in terms of lunch. It's really nice. You guys should all check it out.
I think one of the biggest things this year is our nest room. So this is the second year of it. It happened last year, but because so many people were online, not many people got to utilize that. But it is awesome. It is available to students all throughout the day. They can go. It's kind of a mental health support for students, so I think that's awesome. Fall play auditions just happened, and the list came out, and the first rehearsal was today, so that's very exciting. Our sports teams are doing awesome. Cross country is killing it. Football team, we are 3-0, which is exciting. We have a game this Friday. And I think another cool thing is Best Buddies, formerly known as Best Buddies, is now Inclusion Club. So that's super cool. They are hosting meetings frequently. So, yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Right. Thank you. All right. Next up, we have Liberty High.
Hi, my name is Tyler Moores, and I'm the student representative from Liberty High School. The first 3 weeks of school have been really busy, and I'm excited to tell you guys about what we've been doing at Liberty. So before school started, all freshmen and new students to Liberty were invited to participate in a student orientation led by our National Honor Society. An overwhelming number of students participated, and the day was a great success because of the leadership of the members of the students in National Honor Society. NHS students will continue to mentor 9th grade students throughout the year during our advisory period. PBIS lessons were rolled out to all the students at Liberty in the first 2 weeks of school. These lessons focused on our Bolt's matrix, teaching those values, and reminding returning students of our building expectations. Liberty hosted their annual club fair last Wednesday. Students stopped by during their lunch to explore a variety of clubs that Liberty has to offer. Liberty clubs are a way for everybody to feel belonging at Liberty. The football team continues to show great improvement, and the Liberty Lightning Marching Band is very excited to be performing an 80s themed halftime show featuring songs such as Take On Me and I'm Still Standing. Our volleyball team is off to a wonderful start with a record of 15-3. They're ranked number 3 in the state in the class of 5A. And last weekend, they won the Caroline Found Extravaganza. They beat the top-ranked Ankeny and number 9 Dowling. The hard work put in by the boys and girls cross-country teams is starting to pay off. At the Luther All-American Invitational in Decorah this past weekend, the boys JV team got first and the varsity team got second. At the Cedar Rapids Invitational last week, the varsity girls team got second, with Ashlyn Keeney winning the race by a whole 45 seconds. Looking into fall, our homecoming festivities will be getting underway in 2 weeks, starting with our parade, followed by the football game and the dance. Many are looking forward to the festivities, not just the students, but the community also gets involved, showing their support for Liberty. We are looking forward to a great year, and thank you for your continued support.
Thank you, Tyler. And we got word that our Tate High rep was unable to make it tonight, so we'll go to West High.
Hello, my name's Advika Shah. I am the school board rep for Iowa City West, and I am a senior this year. I'm very pleased to be here and to be presenting in front of all of you today. School has just begun at West High, so things are moving pretty slow. One of the main things on our agenda this fall was the West High student government elections. Our student senate recently went through a remodeling process to try and update it with the newest norms and to make it more equitable and diverse. And today we actually hosted our West student government elections, for which there were 2 co-president teams that were running, and we are looking forward to receiving results tomorrow. One of the other things that were on our agenda for the fall is homecoming. We've been trying to work out ways that we can make homecoming actually be a dance and not just students walking into the football field. So we've been trying to manage that with the COVID capacity restrictions. Our club fair has also been a great success. We had it outdoors in the courtyard, which is now finally done with its construction and has been open to students, which is really huge because it is just such a lively place, especially during the fall. There's like music performances that go on during lunch, and students just really enjoy spending their time out there because of the good weather. Our fall play auditions also went really successfully, and we now have a full list of cast members, and we hope to have a really exciting fall play. Our sports teams are also doing well, just as cities are. We actually have a swim meet today at the Coralville Pool with our girls swim team, and our football teams always do amazing, so really looking forward to a good season there. And finally, one of our biggest concerns at West has been wearing masks. There's been a lot of debate over whether students should be wearing masks in class, should not be, and we actually have received a couple positive tests in several classrooms. So it's been concerning for students that are obviously very high on anxiety related to what they should be doing. But apart from that, thank you so much for having me here today, and I hope to continue working with all of you in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, and that moves us into our ICEA update. Brady Shutt.
Good evening, President Iso and Vice President Malone, Director, Superintendent Degner. I'm Brady Shutt, the President of the Iowa City Education Association. And I have to say, Director Williams, I just want to give a shout out to the t-shirt and thank the foundation for their really generous contribution of a t-shirt, a Reagan t-shirt, to all of our new students. And Kristen Peterson was really instrumental in making that happen, so thank you. I think they're amazing. So we just love them. Yesterday, we had the distinct pleasure and honor of hosting National Education Association President Becky Pringle here in the district, along with ICEA, or Iowa State Education Association President Mike Baranek and Executive Director Mary Jane Cobb. And they chose our district as the only district in the state of Iowa and one of a very, very small number of districts anywhere in our region because of our strong collaborative partnership. And that was really the highlight yesterday. And it was a lot of times we don't take the time to celebrate our successes, and yesterday I felt like that was a great opportunity to celebrate our successes. And so thanks to President Iso and Vice President Malone and Matt and Amy and Chase for their work. And also I have to say to Kim Colvin, who saved me on several different occasions with all the logistics. So thank you very much. But it was the NEA was overwhelmingly impressed by the work that we do. We were able to showcase our use of our ARP monies. We did a very extensive showcasing of our Grow Our Own program. So Chase, it's just going fantastically well. And they also spent some time at the University of Iowa with a partnership that we're developing there that we're pretty excited about. So thanks to all of you. I think, the work that you do and your commitment to collaboration was, is always clear and strong to us, and it was certainly made known nationally as well yesterday. So thank you.
Thank you, Brady. That takes us to community comment. You're reminded to give your name, address, and topic on which you'd like to speak. And when I call your name, you will have 4 minutes to speak on your topic. So let's get right into it. First up, we have Sean Maxwell.
Hello, my name is Sean Maxwell. I am here in opposition to the proposed mask mandate. I do not believe that it is possible for our children to wear a mask all day effectively. Without any efficacy, you are only punishing them and forcing them to have a constant reminder of COVID. I also do not feel that you are looking at the whole child when you mandate masks. I do not believe that you are being critical of the direction from the health agencies. You are attempting to require my children to cover their face and not thinking about what harm this could be doing to them. Could covering their faces reduce their ability to learn? Could it take their attention away from the teacher? Could it hold other bacteria in place so they're stuck breathing it all day? I don't know. You believe that a risk assessment has been done and you are implementing someone else's best plan. I do not believe that that assessment has honestly been done. I don't think that the risk of our children, I do not believe that the risk of contracting COVID outweighs the costs of this mandate for our children. I understand that your end goal is to prevent our children from contracting COVID, but I believe that is not your job. I believe that is my job, that is my wife's job, and not yours. If we didn't want our child exposed to others knowing full well that COVID wasn't going away anytime soon, we would have kept them in your online program. We chose to put our children in person because they need interactions. They need face-to-face. They need to see a teacher smile. We all currently have a choice of how we want to protect our children, mask, online, or no mask, and now you are taking that away from everyone. I know that I am in the minority on the mask mandate, and at the end of tonight, you will implement that policy. But I am asking that you start paying attention to the mental health of our children and what this will do to them. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Jonna Higgins-Fries.
Good evening, my name is Jonna Higgins-Fries. I live at 1302 East Court Street, and I have 2 students in the district, and I too would like to talk with you about the mask requirement. I'm here on behalf of 490 physicians and healthcare providers in our community, along with 1,217 parents and community members who have signed a petition asking that you require masks in schools. I'd like to thank you for your thoughtful consideration on this matter. I was especially appreciating the comments last time by the attorney. I know that he had looked at this issue quite thoughtfully and advised you in a very thorough manner, and I appreciate your diligence and the thought that you've given to this. Now, as you know, the district does have the ability to require masks, and we ask that you do so. Masks work to prevent transmission of COVID-19. They are safe, and they are an effective way to do this. Mask requirements are recommended by the American Academy of Pediatrics, the Centers for Disease Control, and the World Health Organization. And requiring masks preserves the freedom and rights of all children, including those with disabilities, to a free and appropriate public education. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Meredith Fishbane Gordon.
Good evening, members of the school board, Superintendent Digner, and members of the Iowa City community. So my name is Meredith Fishbane Gordon. I'm here tonight as a parent of 2 Wickham Elementary School students to voice concerns about school class size. I'm also expressing views aligned with 76 other parents who signed a letter voicing these concerns and emailed to the board members yesterday. Specifically, I wanted to bring the board's attention that last week, after 2 full weeks of school, Wickham's 5th grade collapsed from 3 to 2 sections, 29 and 30 students each, which are the upper limits of their RAM for 30 students. With the collapse of these 2 sections, Wickham lost a favorite teacher who'd been working in the school for a long time, at least 20 years, longer than I've been in the community. This collapse 2 weeks ago caused a lot of distress for the whole grade. Lots of tears were shed. It made the class sizes larger and obviously disrupted the students that were finally into a good school routine after a chaotic school year last year. Upon inquiry, we heard that the decision was made because Wickham was overstaffed by one, and our principal was forced to decide to have a second academic support person or either the extra support person or an extra teacher. And so we don't understand as parents why the principal was forced to cut a teacher, because isn't that the purpose of the ESSER funding? Our understanding is that ESSER funding with extra COVID support is to allow extra dollars for COVID relief in the school to ensure that our class sizes are smaller, not only to support better learning, especially after a rough past 1.5 school years, but also to try to keep our schools in smaller pods to support, to prevent the spread of COVID. It's important to know that this happens in the context of the 6th grade also being collapsed from 3 to 2 classes with an average of 27.5 students the night of the ice cream social, and our 3rd grade class each having 28.5 students. Last year, there was 32 kids in our 5th grade class and 30 kids in our 4th grade class. These ratios really aren't acceptable, especially during pandemic times. It's not fair to our students, it's not fair to our teachers. Our students are not getting the attention they deserve. We're risking burning out our teachers who are doing everything they can and are invaluable resources. But especially in light of this pandemic and this 3rd wave surge, I think it's critical that we re-examine class sizes, not only because of learning, but also the pandemic. Smaller class sizes will afford our kids more social distance opportunities and less opportunities for the virus to spread to our kids and families once the cohorts are smaller. I should make it known in the 24 hours after I posted a letter and shared it with a fellow 5th grade parent had written to fellow 5th grade parents and 3rd grade parents. It was shared amongst other parents, and we initially received 72 signatures. It's now up to 77 as of this morning, just within 48 hours. Obviously, our hope is to bring back our beloved 5th grade teacher to at least our 5th grade class, which had a huge class size last year, to have some opportunity to experience a smaller classroom setting with they really flourished in for the first 2 weeks of school. However, I really hope that this allows an opportunity to highlight the importance of smaller class sizes in all schools to support best learning and best safety in pandemic times. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you, Meredith. Next up, Mickey Salge. Apologize if I pronounced that wrong.
Good evening. My name is Mickey Salge. I'm a wife, a mother, a vaccinated healthcare worker that wears a mask daily. I'm here tonight asking the school board to keep the mental health of our students in mind. On October 13th, 2020, my son Dylan, a West High sophomore, wrote what depression means to him to a friend. I want to share these words with you as I am now his voice. What depression means to me. It means losing motivation in so many things you used to love. It's having to wear a mask every day, hoping that somebody will care enough to pull that mask down and see how you really are. My son committed suicide in March of 2021. I challenge you to be sure the numbers support the mask mandate that can be detrimental to the mental health of our students. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Brooke Easton.
Hi, everybody. Whew. Here again. All right, well, let's have a conversation. I'm Brooke Easton. I'm at 1940 Hafer Drive. I have 2 boys, a 6th grader, unvaccinated, and a high schooler who is vaccinated, who actually just got, I believe, a notification that he was exposed about 2 days ago. We also had no clue what to do with that exposure, whether we're supposed to send him to school, whether we're supposed to keep him home, what we're supposed to do, because there's no contact tracing. We don't even know when he was exposed. So that's also an issue. So we talk a lot about getting back kids back into the classroom safely during a global pandemic. We talk a lot about mental health. We talk about keeping our kids safe. And here's what I want to tell you. For 18 months, my kids were home. not able to go to school. And those people told me to keep my kids at home. And I did, but I did my time. And I am done. And I am sick of it. And I want my kids to be safe. I want them to be in school. My kids had the best 3 weeks of school, the best 3 weeks, until right before Labor Day. And that was when the Ram messed up my kid's classroom, and he comes to me bawling and telling me, we now lost my favorite teacher. And on top of it, now we have 30 kids in my classroom. I am scared. You want to talk about mental health? That's mental health. My kid is scared to go to school. I've had enough, and so has he. He is 11 years old. He doesn't have to put up with this stuff. It's the grown-ups in the room that are supposed to care for this stuff and supposed to take care of them. And I know all these people are like, well, you're a parent, you should take care of your kids. I do take care of my kids, and I love them very much, but when they are in your care, I expect you to care for my kids too. And what that means to me is that means masking, showing that you're masking, and contact tracing, and taking care of my children during a global pandemic. I ensure my kids into your safety, into my teacher's safety every single day. We do it for allergies every single time, right? We have the peanut table. Just today, I actually packed my kid a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and I said, oh, gosh, can you have that? Like, I don't know if you can have peanuts at school. Oh, yeah, it's fine. I just won't sit at the nut table. Here's the deal, guys. It's time. We need to stand up and protect these kids. Did you know that kids are the most exposed right now? They are the ones making up the biggest percentage of COVID cases in Iowa. Did you also know that I have 50,000 parents in Facebook groups that I am talking to daily that are signing petitions that want masks in schools? We are done. We are frustrated, and we want our kids back in school, and we want them safely. And do you know who the burden falls on every single dang day? Moms. Every single day it falls on moms. We are the ones picking up the slack every single time. We're the ones picking up kids when they're sick. We're the ones jeopardizing our careers. You know, Fran sued in order to get this mask mandate ban done with because she couldn't take a job. That's crap. So I implore you, pass a mask mandate and look at school size and get down to those schools and see how big those rooms are. They aren't big enough for 32 kids.
Thank you, Brooke. Next up, Joseph Dobrian.
Joseph Dobrian, 1015 2nd Avenue. I call the board's attention to the equity section of the ICCSD's website, where we find a link to a YouTube video in which Professor Abraham X. Kendi discusses his recent book, How to Be an Anti-Racist. In that book, Dr. Kendi defines inequity as any difference among any ethnic groups in their average outcomes in any field of life. Differentials that don't roughly reflect the racial demographics of the society, he suggests, can only be explained by racism. There is no space in Dr. Kendi's worldview for considering any other factors. Any neutral standards that might show inequalities or differences of any sort between ethnic groups on any pretext are also ipso facto racist standards. Dr. Kendi's argument is deeply rooted in critical theory, and unlike any standard theory in the social sciences, the assertion of a Manichaean divide between racism and anti-racism cannot be tested. The same page of the district's website also contains a link to learningforjustice.org's webinar, What is White Privilege Anyway? The text below the link reads, in part, deconstructing white privilege in the classroom requires educators and students to understand the origins of whiteness and how the legacy of white supremacy endures. I believe that people who promote this mindset in this and other school districts are nihilists who intend to destroy American values and culture. Their method is to insist that America is systemically racist, which, if it were true, certainly would be a great evil, and therefore the entire American system must be dismantled. Their goals are to annihilate and then preside over the ruins. They think to reach these goals by creating discord, distrust, and intersectional hatred. They use racism in service of their goals. What better way to make a group of children miserable and resentful than by teaching them that they are systemically oppressed on account of their color? What better way to make some other group of children miserable than by teaching them that because of their color, they are deformed by a visible and shameful social disease? I ask you, what could be more racist than that? I submit that this is the very definition of racism. We are teaching our children to be racist. To lie to children in ways that will permanently warp their moral formation is a grievous offense to mankind and to God, an unspeakable atrocity. I don't accuse any individual board members of direct participation in these efforts, but if the shoe fits, wear it. I urge you to tell the parents of this district, if you want your children to learn those attitudes, you instill them. We will not. I ask God's blessings on your deliberations. In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Amen.
Next up, Christine, is it Ether or Etter? I apologize. My reading. Ether. Close.
I'm Christine Etler from Ashwood Drive. I have 2 kids in the district. I support a mask mandate to keep the children in our community safe, especially those who are too young to be vaccinated. I reject the framing of this issue as one of parent choice. By banning mask mandates, the governor and legislature took the choice of a safe, accessible education away from scores of parents with young children. The reality is that lawmakers were favoring the choices of one set of parents over the other. We are not all going to get what we want, and because that's so, we should be following recommendations of the CDC and AAP, and this choice should be, your choice should be about safety, not about parent choice. Thanks.
Thank you. Next up, Maca, Pilcher, Hayek.
Hi, I'm Maca Pilcher Hayek. I live in Iowa City. I have 3 kids in the district. I had planned on speaking about masks, which I am pro-mask mandate. I did not know we were going to have a speaker come up and make racist comments, and I just want to make sure that the record is clear that people in this community don't welcome those comments. Systemic racism isn't a theory, it's a reality. It's embarrassing that those things still get to be said in front of people, especially those very vulnerable to those kind of attacks. And as a member of the school district community, I want to just apologize to anyone who felt vulnerable to those attacks and make it clear that systemic racism is a reality. We need to teach kids the history that created us because that's the only way we can move forward. And I think that's it, because I hadn't planned on talking about it. So again, I am sorry for what was said, and the record needs to be clear that that is not who we are as a school district. Thank you.
Thank you, Maca. Next up, Jen Knights.
kind of a long walk from back there. I'm Jen Knights. I live on North Gilbert Street in Iowa City, and I'm here to speak in support of reinstating a mask mandate in our schools. First, let me say thank you. Your hard work and leadership are so important and appreciated deeply by the parents and the students in this district in terms of safety and including your anti-racist leadership and work as a district. We do appreciate that. I speak on behalf of many other COVID-conscious parents who don't feel comfortable attending this meeting in person, especially because we understood that there is likely to be a contingent of unmasked people in the room. I speak on behalf of my dear friend Nora, another parent in the district who has stood right here in this spot at multiple meetings asking for a mask mandate. She wanted to be here tonight, but she had to stay home because she could barely breathe because of her long COVID. Just let that sink in for a minute. Because some people who are at this meeting are unmasked, I actually will leave after making my comments as well. I think it's important to note that our kids do not have this choice in their crowded classrooms. Our kids have to go to school. We want them in school. We want them in person. It's better for them. My kids also learned online all year last year, and it was excruciating for all of us. We know that even without the ability to social distance at all times, masks are effective at greatly reducing the spread of COVID. They're a critical tool in fighting the pandemic, ending the pandemic. I mean, wouldn't everybody like for this to be over? They save lives, they help protect our most vulnerable community members, and let's just remember the thousands of children in our district who are too young to be vaccinated, the little ones, the hundreds of disabled and immune-compromised kids who are still at greater risk even if they are vaccinated, the teachers, the kids whose parents don't believe in vaccines or masks and won't let them have that protection. This is to protect those kids too. Many of my fellow pro-mask parents are not here because they didn't feel safe attending. This is exactly what we're trying to protect our children from. So I'm representing some other voices besides my own, and in the time that I have left, I just want to read some of the comments that they have shared with me in the past 24 hours on Facebook. 1, several of you are on record as supporting a mandate. I know some people with opposing views can be very loud. Please stay the course and do everything in your power to protect all of our students. 2, I hope you know how many parents support the decisions you've made during the pandemic on behalf of our kids. We know your hands have been tied by the governor. And we were so pleased to learn yesterday that you can now move forward to enforce a mask mandate in our schools. We support a mask mandate for the safety of our students, particularly our littles who are still awaiting clearance to receive a vaccine. I lost track of numbers, but here's another one. Our schools not only teach our children academics, but how to be compassionate, caring citizens in this world and how to take care of each other. This is an opportunity for them to exercise these crucial life skills. Here's another one. Please, please, please mandate masks in schools, and thank you, board, for your service and dedication. I am confident that the school board will make the right decision tonight and pass a mask mandate. Thank you for doing what is in your power, because it is now in your power to help end this pandemic and give our kids a full year of safe in-person learning. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. All right, next up, Lila Thomas.
Hello, my name is Lila Thomas. I live in Iowa City and have one child in the district. I come with another petition which has been emailed to you but has since gained over 400 signatures and been endorsed by 23 community organizations. It is a demand to enforce a mask mandate. The demand includes citations to medical authorities and reputable news sources, not just conjecture and observations. But the point is that we need to protect our children, and we've had vaccine mandates since the early 1900s. It's not taking away the freedom to ensure that all of our children can have a safe school experience. This has been emailed to you. I can leave it with you to review if you'd like. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Next up, Royce Blackburn.
Hello, my name is Royce Blackburn, and my family and I are recently moved to the Iowa City area. We live in Coralville, and we have 2 children in the public schools, one in high school, one in middle school, junior high you call it here. We are fortunate that both our children are old enough to be vaccinated, but I would stand in support of a mask mandate in the public schools, and I would encourage all of us to stand behind it as well. I realize we come to this issue with varying degrees of fervor, passion, and so much pain for so many. But I am encouraged to see that at least in this room right now, we're treating each other with a great deal of respect. When you see so many stories of school board meetings that get out of hand. And I would say that for us, we need to keep our children in school. Our children were online last year while I worked from home, so I completely sympathize with your plight of having to raise your children, because I am not cut out for middle school math anymore. And it was a sheer misery for all of us. We all want, everybody in this room wants their children in school. They want them face to face with their friends and their teachers. And the best way to do that is to keep us masked and to keep us safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Janice Weiner.
Good evening. My name is Janice Weiner. I live at 39 Galway Circle in Iowa City. I don't currently have a child in the school district, but I will soon. If you could save one child's life, would you? If you could prevent 10 children from being hospitalized, from having potentially lifelong medical issues, would you? I'm sure you would. These are our kids and grandkids, our teachers and school staff. How can we not act? And if not now, when? Universal masking, along with layered mitigation efforts, improved ventilation, social distancing, regular testing, it's the bridge across the abyss of the Delta variant. This disease is airborne. Masks are source control. Mine protects you, and yours protects me. I think of it as a spit test. I can't spit on you if I wear a mask. So in reality, it seems to me that freedom to not mask equates to freedom to infect others. That's not in line with public health. Public health focuses on the common good. It's also really important to be considerate of others, and it models good behavior for our kids. I'm so grateful to Senator Tom Harkin for the ADA, and I'm really grateful to each of you school board members. I know you're taking a lot of heat, and you will continue to. I know you will do the right thing for the common good, and we will all have your back. Thank you.
Thank you, Janice. Next up, Marianne Jones.
Hi, my name is Marianne Jones. I live on Kosher Avenue in Iowa City. I've got 2 kids in the district. I want to thank all of you for your incredible service and your bravery throughout the pandemic. You guys have really had our backs as a community, and I want to reiterate what the speaker just said. We will have yours when you make a tough decision tonight, and I am asking that you pass a mask requirement in the school district. We're living in the middle of a story whose ending has not been written yet. We don't know. There's so many decisions we have to make as parents, educators, community members. Every single day we have to navigate the pandemic, make a lot of decisions based on not enough information. Every little decision becomes very agonizing that way. But the good news is there are some things that we do know and that are rock solid and supported by data. And one of those things is that masks are very efficacious. We know this. The CDC has recommended that children wear masks. The American Academy of Pediatrics, which is undergirded by the wisdom of 67,000 pediatricians in America, they too have said kids should wear masks in school. Even the vaccinated kids should wear masks in school. It's in all of our best interest to keep the schools open, to keep our kids in school so that they're not home in quarantine. I want to say that it took a lot of guts for the mom to come up here earlier and talk about her son with depression, and my daughter was a good friend of his, and it's just excruciating to listen to her story. And I get that. I have a child with depression, and I get that. It is really hard navigating a pandemic with a child who has depression and anxiety. And what I would say is that for my child, going into a school building where some people aren't masked is hugely triggering for her. It does not feel like a safe environment. She goes to class and she's expected to make arguments, support her arguments and her claims with evidence, use reasoning, use logic. She does the research. She understands that masks are efficacious. And yet she sees some of her peers without masks, and that's very triggering for her. So I would just say, I honor the woman who spoke earlier. I understand she has a very different perspective, but for me, speaking on behalf of kids with, very serious mental health issues, being in school is critically important, and the best way to keep our kids in school and keep COVID manageable, if that's even really reasonable, is to keep our kids in masks. So I really hope that you strongly consider that tonight. And I want to say that last year, when our kids wore masks in school, they were strong, they were resilient. They did it, even the wee little ones, they wore the masks. If the adults can role model it, the kids will do it. I have complete faith in them. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And that was our last speaker tonight, so we will move into our agenda. First up is our agenda approval. I would entertain a motion.
I move that we approve tonight's agenda.
Second.
Kim?
Online voting is open.
Christine, I didn't get yours.
Oh, sorry. All votes have been cast and the motion carries with all directors voting in favor.
All right, thank you, Kim. Next up, we have our consent agenda. Were there any questions from folks as they reviewed the bills this meeting?
Sean, I reviewed bills, had no questions.
Anybody else?
I had no questions, so I did review the bills.
Are there any items directors would like to pull from consent? If not, I would entertain a motion.
Move approval of the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
All right, Kim?
Online voting is open. All votes have been cast and the motion carries with all directors voting in favor.
All right, thank you, Kim. Next up, we do have a public hearing. So I will turn it over to Vice President Malone.
Thank you, President Eystone. Now is the time and place for the public hearing on the proposed plans and specifications for the City High ACE Shop project. The Board of Directors set the date for this public hearing on August 24th, 2021. Notice of public hearing was published in the Iowa City Press Citizen on August 25th, 2021. The district will receive bids on this project at 2 p.m. September 30th, 2021 at the facilities office located at 1137 South Riverside Drive, Iowa City, Iowa 52246. Notice to contractors was published as required by law in multiple statewide plan rooms and on the Iowa City Community School District website on August 25th, 2021. Are there any questions from the board?
Can someone just say what ACE stands for?
That's the Architecture, Construction, and Engineering program that we started aligning inside of our high schools with the Kirkwood ACE program, and so that's been a successful experience for us and allowed our students to participate in some hands-on projects in those 3 areas.
Thanks very much, ma'am.
Are there any questions from the public?
All right, we will close this public hearing. We can move on to our next item, a policy review. We have an update on our facility use policies, and I don't know if you want to lead us off there, Matt?
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward, President Eystone. This is the facility use fee schedule. So at the time, we had asked you to do that large policy approval when we transitioned governance models there. We hadn't yet adopted the new fee schedule for this calendar, or for this academic year. And so you just have the revised fee schedule for the use of our facilities there in front of you, and then talks about club rules and fees for the use of district facilities there with that board policy attached. So any questions, we'd be happy to answer them, but I think it's pretty straightforward.
Yep, and I think it will be on at the next meeting for adopting the policy to take action on it, right?
Yeah, so yeah, we try to have that in front of you guys 2 different times before we adopt any policy, so, yep.
Matt, how often do we adjust our fees?
Yeah, so we look at those yearly and make sure they're accurate. Les, I don't know if you'd have any perspective about how often or how fluid we've changed those in the past over time.
I think it's probably been every other year, every 3rd year.
Okay, so reasonable to keep up with inflation and, okay, thanks.
Any other questions from directors on that? All right, let's go ahead and move on to our list of discussion items. First up, our 21-22 school year. We're going to get a kind of a quick update on health and safety, sort of a reminder of what we talked about at our work session last week, and then enrollment update. So I'll kick it back over to Matt to lead us off.
Sure, so I'm just going to take the first portion around health and safety. We're going to save the larger conversation, obviously, for the action item here in the next portion of the agenda. But the health and safety item, we really just wanted to review the conversation the board had with the leadership team at the last work session, where we had changed our approach to secondary contact tracing and quarantining. We had received information from Johnson County Public Health that they were experiencing large delays in being able to get notification out to families that would have been identified as a close contact. Therefore, we weren't really realizing any benefit from that process, students being notified days later, being in school after they would have been a close contact. So we wanted to make the effort to divert those resources to our youngest learners in our schools and to try to turn that notification process around quicker and maximize those resources there. So we'd had that conversation. The state had also put out some new guidance from the Iowa Department of Public Health and the Iowa Department of Education around a FAQ with contact tracing, quarantine, and some other components that we'd also reviewed with the board. So we had implemented that change this week. We had welcomed some students that had been quarantined back, and then have really tried to focus that notification process, speeding up to our elementary learners. Our nurses are still doing the contact tracing collection of data, and then working with Johnson County to make those notifications to families out on that. But that was the reason for the change in the secondary practice.
We feel like we're, or at least the Johnson County is keeping up with the elementary. I know that was a concern if they weren't able to keep up with the secondary. I know it's a different beast altogether, but.
It's a different beast, but we've had a couple of examples this week where we've had larger number of students that we know we've had to turn around in a little quicker fashion. And so I think we're encouraged by what we see. It's been a short period of time. You know, we just met last Tuesday, and so there's just been a few days in there. But I think we're encouraged by what we see there. And then depending on where I think we're going to go tonight, that'll also change the nature of that conversation about how many students are included into some of those contact tracing and quarantine situations that we would need to be trying to get notification out around.
Charlie?
So Matt, I can't remember if we discussed this during the work session or not, but is there anything the district can do to improve the staffing of the Johnson County Public Health so they can have more contact tracers at work?
Well, I think what we've tried to be in control of is, remember last year we had significant conversations around the staffing levels of our nurses and committed resources to that. We committed continuing that with our ESSER dollars this year to continue to support on that end. So we've tried to hire additional nursing staff. We tried to have them in place to really do a lot of that data collection process. But as far as the staffing levels of Johnson County Public Health, I think they would kind of have to comment on where they feel like they're situated with that. I think the other challenge, if I go back to that conversation from last week, was at different points last year, we served almost 40% of our students in the online program. And so we just have a completely different volume of students in our buildings this year on a daily basis, not split into A and B days like we also experienced for part of the year. And so I would say just the overall volume of this has been different. And then we had the conversation around secondary students also having access to the vaccine in that sense. And again, trying to divert those resources there. So I know that's a little bit more than the staffing conversation, Charlie, but that was some other of the high points I think we had talked about in that regard. But I really think it's just a volume issue and getting that information out and making all those notifications coming back. They had shared with us that even if our staff had tried to take that on at this point, we'd experience the same delays.
Well, thanks for the discussion. But as we all know, parents whose kids have had an exposure, they really want information about the exposure quicker than we're able to provide it right now. So,
And if I can insert one other thing, I'm remembering a couple other points that we talked about there I should have provided in the overview. We also inserted a step into our process, if you remember from last week, that we talked about just doing a straight notification, at least to the classroom. So I think a couple community commenters referenced that they were provided notice that somebody in their child's classroom would have been COVID positive. And so if they do experience a delay on when they're notified, if their own child was identified as a close contact, they at least would have the knowledge that there was a student in their classroom that had tested positive, and they could make the decision until notification from Johnson County if they wanted to keep the child at home until that process was completed. Again, we're trying to speed up that notification process, but we did insert a step into the process to at least get some notice out sooner that, hey, your child was in a class today with somebody that tested positive.
So walk me through this, because now I'm going through this as of today. How long is that taking for, not the initial notification, that goes out right away. Do we have like an average time when folks are contacted, each individual family, that there has been a close contact?
Sure. Well, I think part of the problem we were getting into was the several days conversation, JP, is what we were experiencing with the secondary, and I think that's what President Eiston was asking, if we would feel good about saying what that time frame is now. I might ask Jess if she has anything she'd want to add about what we've seen here even yesterday or today, for that turnaround piece, if that is being realized. But again, I would say it's early, right? And so we're still trying to work through those. We know that we've had some increase in cases at certain buildings, and so that volume's picked up a little bit there. But Jess, anything you'd want to add about just some anecdotal information about how it's worked in this past week?
For secondary buildings or for elementaries, are you?
The
for
elementary.
elementaries. Yeah, so when a positive case is identified, the building administrators are sending out that initial notice just saying there was a positive case. Our nurses are now following up with information, giving them quarantine dates, saying this is when you can come back to school. Here's quarantine information. Here's information with an attachment from Johnson County Public Health on what quarantine looks like. And then the information from our nurses that have identified the close contacts is submitted to Johnson County within 24 hours. They're getting the information almost immediately from our nurses the same day.
At that point, Johnson County Public Health takes over.
Then it's in their hands. They know when they can return to school, but then Johnson County essentially will contact trace outside of the school district, outside of the school day with the positive case to determine other close contacts, and then they essentially should be following up with the information with the close contacts that we provided to them. Now they're telling us, Johnson County is saying it could take up to 5 days for them to make those contacts because of how backlogged they are. They wait to get information from the state that identifies the positive case. So, when they're testing positive, that information comes to the local county public health from the state that there was a positive case. So I think they're just backlogged that long that it's taking that long to get that information.
Thanks, I appreciate that. That helps kind of flesh it out and kind of understand the process, so we can understand kind of why there are these delays and that it's frankly just so many people to contact.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you to the nursing staff. I know that they are working tirelessly to get that notification out, and was just curious to make sure we're providing the support that they need, because I know nationwide we're seeing nurses shortages, and I want to make sure that we keep our nurses in our district able to do their job. So if we can continue to think how we can make this, I can't say less stressful, because it's, I'm sure, stressful for them and they're feeling underworked, but I hope they know that they are definitely appreciated. We could not do this without them, and just try and figure out a way to make sure we keep them on the front lines, taking care of that responsibility for us.
No, thank you for that, Ruthine. I think we'd all agree they've just been tremendous throughout this process. And in that, removing that notification piece off of their plate was a big point for us this year because of making those phone calls. And as you can imagine, those phone calls don't always go well. And so, trying to have Johnson County assist with that has been of help, and Jess did a nice job of sharing there. We're trying to get the information over to them as quick as we can, and then, that's in their hands as far as making the follow-up. But we've tried to get additional information out to parents that are now seeing that initial communication from us about essentially what that means and what a quarantine looks like and what they should do while they're kind of in that limbo time period.
Just to be clear, I didn't raise this to be critical of the work that the nurses and the staff are doing, not at all. Just trying to, look at the process and see if there's anything. Again, we can provide any additional resources if we have them available for us.
All right. Let's go ahead and move into the enrollment update, Matt.
Sure, and I'm going to pass that over to Amy. She's going to start us off with the enrollment update tonight. Thanks.
Thanks, Matt, and good evening, everyone. So board docs reflects the RAM from August 31st when we did our latest round of staffing adjustments there. In that, we moved teachers from 5 different buildings that day and over Labor Day weekend into the next week there. In doing so, that latest round of adjustments really has every single building then settled into their RAM allocations as prescribed by board policy, and allows each of those buildings to still have access to the 1.0 academic support teacher that we had provided through the ESSER allocation. So just to back up and remind everyone of the conversation that we had last time, and that is we did use ESSER dollars and dedicated that to large class sizes. And in doing so, last year we had been operating in RAM models levels 2 through 5, and this year we placed buildings in RAM levels 1 through 4. So we did make that commitment through the use of those ESSER dollars. I think I shared with you last time that last year we ended the year with roughly 354 classroom teachers at the elementary level. In the springtime, we staffed or projected at 370, plus the additional academic support teachers that each building was set up with. So roughly 391 FTE was what we were hoping to go out and hire for, and were successfully able to do that. Lo and behold, when we came back and saw our enrollment rebound somewhat, we were hitting that target about 370 staff members. So while the model in the spring was calling for about 358 staff members by bumping everybody down through RAM levels 1 through 4, we did infuse 12 extra FTE. And the way we went about that, I shared last time, was at that time, any K2 section that was at 25 or more was awarded another FTE, and anybody over 29 or more at the 3-6 level was awarded an FTE. It wasn't a perfect way to do it, but it got us to a healthy number, and actually a number that really worked out for us at that time. Right before school started, around ice cream social time, we made our first round of adjustments, and that happened because of opening the third enrollment period for the online program. And we did have some parents at that time change in their mind also from their initial election from April and June, wanting to actually come back on site. I would say after that time, and on a daily basis, we continue to deal with late enrollment requests and have that really restricted to a few exceptions. But even having that restriction to a few exceptions, there are exceptions that are being made. And so we still do have enrollment fluctuations even happening on a small scale day-to-day basis. So as we moved into the school year, we knew through that commitment that it made sense to staff everybody according to the RAM at that time and provide everybody with 1.0. If we didn't move in that direction, that would have meant some of our buildings would have been quote-unquote understaffed, some would have been overstaffed, and the overstaffed ones would have been overstaffed plus had the additional academic support teacher. So we didn't make that decision lightly. We knew that it had ramifications. We knew that it would impact students. We knew it was going to impact some of our staff members. But we do believe that doing that, making that move, was the most equitable thing to do at that time. We're not out of the woods yet. We have promised to our parents that both second and third trimester, given where we're at in the pandemic, that we were going to open the enrollment period again. So it's been painful the last year and a half as we've made constant staffing changes, and we're certainly not out of the woods. So with that, I'd entertain questions.
Directors?
Well, thanks, Amy, very much. And I also very much appreciate the information we have, the table that you provided for us that shows enrollment and class sizes in every single building in the elementary buildings. That's very helpful for trying to understand what's in front of us or what we're confronting. I did have a probably very poorly thought out suggestion tonight, and I'm not going to raise it because I think it is poorly thought out in terms of getting at the few sections that have few classes that have 29 or 30 students in them. So, but in listening to you and thinking about this some more, I guess I'm going to have to say that I'm supporting I'm continuing to support the RAM model. I think that's one of the best things we can do for all the students in the district, considering a whole host of factors. Okay, and I'm also I'm going to support the work that you and the staff have done in trying to implement the model in a way that helps most of the kids in the district. I'm continuously reminded by other board members, that we have to represent. We have to figure out what's best for all of the 7,000+ elementary students in this district. So that's why I'm continuing to try to support your work and the work of the rest of the staff in working through these issues. I know we're going to have classes that have more students in them than parents are satisfied with. We're going to have that. And until we can get a different funding model applied throughout the state, that's going to be our reality.
Thank you, Charlie.
This is just really quick. Is it possible, perhaps by the next board meeting or the one early October, to get the SES rate for the online program?
Yes.
Thank you.
And then my question too, when will we have the ELL numbers?
We could do that anytime.
What was that?
We could do that anytime as well.
Oh, okay. I didn't know it was not there. I didn't know if we were waiting on something, but.
No, I mean, actually, if we could wait until after certified enrollment, things would be much more, perfect according to the Department of Ed. That's just going to mean waiting, though, a little bit longer, and we can give you, based on our head count, that sort of information. Just know that statistics may change slightly based on certified enrollment.
So we get it in by October 1st? And last year, right, they were ridiculous in getting it back to us, like never yesterday. So I guess I could wait, but if it's going to go on to December and January, then yeah, I definitely want to know what we know.
I think it's typically been mid-November, is that right? Yeah.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Thanks, Jason.
Just what the percentage
Any other questions, directors? All right. Anything else on this topic from your team, Matt? All right, let's go ahead and move on to the next topic, which is FMP 2.0.
And we'll turn it over to Chase there.
Great, thank you, and good evening. It's nice to be with you to speak about this topic again this evening. We're very excited about where we are with our FMP 2.0 planning. We really appreciate the time the board spent with us last week in a work session to finalize the format of what we see as our guiding document for FMP 2.0 this fall, and that's attached to tonight's agenda. And on the front side, we of course see the progression of the guiding principles for this work, portrait of graduate competencies, the school board's guiding principles, and then our stakeholder facility planning priorities, our time we spent in community engagement in June and July, getting feedback from our stakeholders, not about specific projects, but really about those planning priorities or those themes that should help guide how we want our buildings to look as we support instruction in our schools in the future. And then the second page of that document is where we get into the fun stuff, the specifics of the projects that are taking place. And also we highlight that this work is supported by 2 existing levies, SAVE and PEPL, and as those are on the ballot in November for the district's consideration. We know that many of those projects and the work that's been done in the past and ongoing are funded by those 2 levies. I think it's also important to note as we look at this is that those levies are at no new cost initiatives for the school district. And the feedback we got last week was to maybe look at how, not necessarily we grouped them, but to provide more specifics to some of the projects, to lay those out there, the specifics that we can provide right now, and also maybe relabel that first group. And so you see we've made that change. I think our draft said critical needs, but really as we talked last week as a group, these are things that, and Dwayne's here again, by the way, Dwayne's back there, that Dwayne reminded us were things that were just either outside the scope or outside our budget for FMP 1.0. And so we really think that we're on point by saying that these Group 1 projects really help us complete that promise that we made to the school community in FMP 1.0. And so we see those laid out there with additional detail. Group 2, life cycle projects, a little bit less detailed because the nature of life cycle projects are you don't actually know what they're going to be sometimes from year to year, and we have to just keep on top of those and make sure that we fund those to keep our buildings innovative and in a place that they can serve students. And then the third group really circles back to some of the great input we got from the community about really how the community sees we should take our focus instructionally as a school community, or things that we should at least consider. And we know that some of these considerations have impact on our physical structures. And so we want to put those out there to the community to say, hey, we don't exactly know where we're going, but we are going to have those conversations because we understand decisions around these programming components play into what we do with our physical structures in the building. And so we show this to you this evening, knowing that the vote on PEPL and SAVE is, wait, did I say PEPL? Excuse me, yes, that's right, sorry, is at the beginning of November. And what our steps, next steps from here is Kristen and I plan to bring back a suite of information that we want to make sure that we can get out to the public over the next 5 to 6 weeks. That includes additional opportunities for the superintendent to have conversations with our community in more detail about what we're looking to do in the future, how the board is going to be engaged. And of course, we'd like the board to be involved in those conversations as well. But along with that, materials that don't take a stance. Remember, as a public entity, we can't say vote yes on something, but we can remind people of the importance of voting and what these levies actually pay for. So developing some pieces that we can put out to the public along with this overview, including potentially signs for our property. And one of the things that JP brought up last week that we think is important well is, hey, if we don't have PEPL funding in the future, what can't we do? Because the understanding really needs to be to our community that these are tremendous funding sources, that if we don't continue them, there are drawbacks and there are consequences to that. And so we will continue to put together, based on this overarching document, some more targeted pieces of information that we think are important for the community that really highlight what we're doing FMP 2.0, but also the importance of the no new cost initiatives wrapped in PEPL and SAVE that will be before the community in November. So that was a lot of information. I know I I talked kind of quickly and I realize it more when I'm wearing my mask, so I apologize. But I'll take any questions that the board might have or any discussion we want to have this evening.
No question. A couple of comments, and one you beat me to, Chase, so thanks for that. But first off, just to point out that without the passage of the bond and all the folks that put the work into that bond, the GO bond, this would probably not be stuff we'd be talking about. We'd be still trying to make up for 30 years of neglect and all of that. So the passage of that GO bond really puts us in the place to move forward with this. And especially those critical needs are really needed. And I guess I'll be more blunt saying that if we don't pass, the revenue purpose statement for the SAVE money and the PEPL, it's coming out of the general fund, which at the end of the day just means bigger class sizes. Yeah. I mean, it's just, we spend 85% of our money on people. Most of that is on teachers. And any way you move that money, if you have to take out of the general fund to pay these things, that is where that's going to hit. And so folks who are concerned about that, this is really important. And these are not tremendous burdens on folks right now. One, it's no new money. And if you, break out your property tax bill and kind of look at what you're paying for PEPL, and the SAVE, which is coming out of sales tax, for any individual or family, it's not dramatic. I get it. People are on fixed incomes, and we do need to be conscientious about that. But I think the cost we pay for larger class sizes and inadequate facilities over the next, because what's the date? How long could we borrow out to this if we pass it, Les?
2050 on the SAVE.
So we're voting for 2050, okay, here in November. And so it's really important that folks get out and make that decision. I know you guys can't say vote yes. Can board members? What can we say? Vote, okay, vote. I guess talk to me at the farmer's market, and we'll have a conversation. But just to make those comments, so thanks for your work on this, and I really encourage people to get out and vote on this on November 2nd.
I'll pick up where JP left off. Certainly, the people that work to pass that bond are instrumental, and equally then instrumental, hi Dwayne, is Dwayne and Chase and Jeff Barnes and the rest of the operations crew that did all of these projects on time, under budget, and saved us millions of dollars. And it's because of those savings also that we are not asking for another bond. And I know we've said this a ton of times, but I just cannot express my gratitude enough for everybody on that team to have successfully done what they did. It's really, truly amazing. And I don't think anywhere in the state has ever seen that much success with that large of a bond. So outstanding. Thank you for this, Chase. Once again, I feel like we had a great discussion last week. You and Kristen and the rest of the team listened to it, and you improved and got us a new project. I'm amazed at how it just, I think, really strikes the balance very well of providing information, but it's still on that one pager. So I appreciate that it's on the one pager. And I really appreciate the messaging behind the group one, the completing the promise. I think that's really clear that these aren't new ideas or new things. These are pull-through projects that we just didn't complete with the 2017 bond. And I think that'll help frame it for the voters about why not every school is represented in group one, but the schools that are because they're still waiting their turn. And so it's not a slight at the schools that we've left off. We're just completing that promise of getting to these projects and wrapping them up. So thank you, outstanding work.
Anyone else? All right, thanks. Thank you, Chase. Next up, the most exciting thing here, we need to come up with a delegate for the IASB assembly. I know some folks are not planning on going to Des Moines in November for it, and it may turn to be a virtual thing at some point anyway. I don't know, other director, I'm kind of looking around to see, is anyone planning on going? I did tell Kim that I would go the next day for the convention, so I could be there the day before, but I don't know if anybody else was going.
Looks like you'll be going the day before, President Eystone.
I'm looking around. Anyone? Correct.
I nominate Sean Eystone as our delegate.
Turn. All right. I guess we'll put my name down there. And we'll hope that it becomes virtual. All right.
Although having said, when these are in person, they really are great events. IASB does a really nice job. It's you get a lot of energy and charge. It's always around my wife's birthday, so I struggle with the date. But
All right. Let's go ahead and move on to our action item. I will turn it over to Matt to get us started.
Sure, thanks everybody. So I'm sure everyone by now is aware of the TRO that was granted for the hearing we were named in or as a defendant in that happened last Friday. We've had a lot of community engagement around this, so a lot of different email responses, and unfortunately I know I won't get everybody responded to through that route. But tonight we did want to have a conversation after working on this with legal counsel the last couple days, and basically what we have for advice from legal counsel is as follows, and so I'm just going to read it to you. It would serve as an opportunity to use as a motion if you so desired, but I'm just going to read from the page to you, really the counsel from Joe here. All students, staff, teachers, and visitors in all district buildings are at all times required to wear face coverings or masks intended to prevent the spread of respiratory droplets. At outdoor activities on school property, all students, staff, teachers, and visitors are at all times required to wear face coverings or masks intended to prevent the spread of respiratory droplets. When social distancing in accordance with the Federal Center for Disease Control guidelines is not possible. Students actively participating in athletic competition, whether indoors or outdoors, are not required to wear masks. Students and staff on the sidelines and bench are required to wear masks. Exceptions to required masks would be when actively eating or drinking or with an approved medical exception. So again, that's the counsel from Joe, basically on knowing what occurred with the temporary restraining order. I think an important point to note from my conversations with him is how the liability part of this conversation shifts to now local districts and our responsibility to protect the health and safety of our students and staff and also our visitors to campuses when we talk about trying to provide a safe environment. So that liability perspective informs some of that piece around the outdoor component as well and about access to activities there. And so if there's anything probably surprising from what I read to you, that may be the component that's surprising there is the component on outdoors. But would be happy to answer any questions or let you guys comment and chew that around a little bit. But that is what Joe and I worked on to present to you tonight.
So can you repeat the bit about being outside? I want to make sure I understand. Around wearing a mask outside if you cannot socially distance per the federal recommendations. Is that?
Yes, I'll just read that paragraph again and then expand upon it a little bit, Janet. So at outdoor activities on school property, all students, staff, teachers, and visitors are at all times required to wear face coverings or masks intended to prevent the spread of respiratory droplets when social distancing in accordance with the Federal Center for Disease Control guidelines is not possible.
Okay.
So say, for example, football game Friday night, if we're not going to limit any kind of capacity around that, we are probably going to create a crowded environment in the student section or in other parts of the attendance. And so there, again, masks would be required in that scenario. It would not be for the athletes competing on the field, but if they were on the sideline, then the expectation would be they would have a mask on at that point, according to the way this is written here tonight.
Was there a separate section there about sports events or extracurricular activities, or is that included in what you just read for?
So yes, the third paragraph, Charlie, was students actively participating in athletic competition, whether indoors or outdoors, are not required to wear masks. Students and staff on the sidelines or bench are required to wear masks. So you could take that from an ongoing active competition that they're in the middle of an actual game, or you could look at that from the aspect of a practice where they'd be actively involved in some kind of physical activity. Then they would not be required to wear masks at that time. Okay. If they were sitting, receiving instruction, or waiting to go into the event, then they would be asked to be wearing a mask at that time.
And is that what we did last year? Was that what our policy was?
We had some different things going on at different points throughout last year, and so we would have had athletes competing in masks at different times during the last school year. There would have been some sporting events where the athletes wouldn't have been wearing masks. You know, you can think about some differences between our indoor sports in the winter or what we started the school year with football last season. There would be some differences there.
Anyone else? All right. there's no questions, I would entertain a motion.
Move we approve the motion that Superintendent Degner read around requiring masks.
Second.
Any further discussion? All right, Kim?
Online voting is open. All votes have been cast, and the motion carries with all directors voting in favor.
Thank you, Kim. Next up, we have our Director Liaison Report. I don't know if there's anything folks would like to highlight from that.
I just wanted to thank Brady for the opportunity to attend yesterday and meet the president of NAA, Becky Pringle. She did also wanted me to extend her appreciation to the rest of the board. She was very impressed with our ability to have collaborative relationships, not only with our staff, but with our community as well, in order for us to be supportive of our staff.
That was a wonderful opportunity. I'll add my thanks there too, Brady. Anything else?
Thanks, Christina, for taking the time to do that. I appreciate it.
Oh, I'll just say I left my one-on-one with Superintendent Degner. I'll just say I really appreciate those, Matt, that you take the time to really get in depth with us. And I also left this off just because I did it yesterday, and I met with Janet, our ombuds. And I just want to make a comment that, the ombuds and the call for that kind of predates a lot of the protest move that was happening last year. We were working on this ahead of time. Really came out of, a lot of community comment over the years with some people calling for that, really, I think, in a radical sense, that, this was demanding that. And it wasn't always pleasant conversations. And the fact that we brought that role on, and I just believe Janet's going to do a great job. I'm excited for folks in the community to get to know her as she starts to kind of encounter things, because the goal of this is to earn trust, and rather than saying, hey, you should trust us, I'm excited for folks who are struggling with some aspect of the system, that the normal chain of command isn't working for you, or the system is complicated, to work with her to find a solution that really works for everyone. I think this is just going to enhance the relationship we have with all members of our community. So I want to highlight that and let you know she's really establishing that role to be something that's sustainable and stays around in this district a long time. So let's give her some time to really set that up in a very professional way. But I'm just enthusiastic and really can't say enough how important this role is for our community, and that I believe we're the only district in the state of Iowa, and really one of the few in the country that has the role of ombuds in a K-12 system. And so I want to thank the admin and the rest of the board for having the courage to invite this in, right? Because those aren't always comfortable conversations to have with someone who's coming in with people who might be struggling with the system. And I think it's going to make us a stronger district. And so I really appreciate everyone's support for bringing Janet on.
I'm going to echo that. I met with Janet today and super impressed her process for getting set up, the charter concept process, earning trust, JP's, just kudos. I'm a fan. She's going to do a great job, and she's got your support, which I think is really, really critical. I know she has the board support as well. So,
thanks, Janet and JP, for bringing that up. And I suspect all of us have met with her by now, and I agree she's very impressive as a candidate and or a person occupying this role, right? And she has a really good process for establishing this in the district, this position in the district. So, really impressed.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Let's go ahead and move on to our agenda setting. So we do have our board retreat coming up in a little, week and a half. So we're going to kind of go over some goals and just really look at our strategic plan and how we're going to put all those pieces together that we've been talking about over the last year. And we do have a As promised, our Policy and Governance Committee is going to meet ahead of the board meeting on the 28th to start that monthly kind of review of the different series, and there's a couple other things that we're going to throw on there, but we'll tackle the 100s for the most part at that. And then we do have our regular board meeting on the 28th, which of course has all the usual suspects on there. You'll see, as mentioned earlier, the facilities use policy will be on there again to take action on an equity update. One thing we will add on there, we got word that on the 28th, it will be Director Etsy's last meeting with us in the room, so we'll want to roast her a little bit to make her very uncomfortable and make us all laugh. So we'll get that on there. Is there anything else that directors would like to see on the 28th or before or later?
Maybe not on the 28th or before, maybe later, but I would like an update on the math curriculum. I know we made some major changes to that by eliminating a lot of our, getting everybody on grade level in math, and I'd really like to know how that's going. And maybe as we talk about revising our education committee, that could be an opportunity to address math maybe in general in the district. And then at some point, I guess I'd like to know kind of how playgrounds are going. I know that was, when those are being rolled out, that was quite a point of discussion. And so just to understand how we're doing with our playgrounds and getting those on the road towards inclusive, and just wonder how that's going.
Yeah, playgrounds, I would like to hear that. Just because I know Dan has been working really hard on that, and to give him an opportunity to have the floor and share his perspective, but also maybe some of his wins, or maybe a way for us to make it even better for him to be able to push that through with facilities.
Can I ask a question on the math?
Yeah, yes.
Would you, are you seeing that happen in both settings, JP, the Ed Committee and the board update, or would that be something maybe you guys would want to talk about on the retreat about, would that be one of the first Ed Committees? Maybe we just schedule around the math, or would you like to do it at a meeting too, just so we're ready to go?
Yeah, if we do it at a meeting, I guess that could be pretty brief. And if we do it at an Ed Committee, I think we could have a lot more presentation from staff about how we teach math in the district, K-12, so, I mean, I guess, depending on what you guys have and want to present, if it's something that fits in a meeting, I don't want to make a meeting an extra half hour longer.
Sure.
So if it works better in an Ed Committee, it might be a time to highlight what we're doing.
Right, I think that'd be what I'd recommend. I think there's just a larger story to tell with what we're doing and some of the steps in place, and there'd be a chance for probably our team to highlight some of their work they're taking in there, so it might be a good one to kick off some of our Ed Committee conversations.
Yeah, I think that'd be a great setting.
Okay, great.
Yeah, thanks.
All right. Any other additions, folks? All right. If not, that brings us to the end, so I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Thank you, everyone, for your time. Have a good night.